think this could be the year West Ham break their 46-year wait for an FA Cup trophy. I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. But before I do, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. So close to that 100 mark now, 100 subscribers. Obviously, a very early days in this channel. So if you can help me get to that 100, I'll be eternally grateful. And drop a like on the video as well. It will really help me out. So the draw came out last night for the FA Cup fifth round, is it? Yeah, fifth round. And obviously, I'm sure you know, we got Macclesfield or Brentford, which obviously turned out to be Brentford after a 1-0 win last night. I actually put a tweet up before the draw, which I'll put on the screen now, of who I actually would have wanted. I put sort of a green, definitely wanted, a middle tier where, yeah, I can see the pros and cons for those teams. And then across the teams I obviously didn't want, which was basically the big boys. I put Newcastle in there just because I thought Newcastle, particularly at St James's Park, I just can't see us getting through that one. I know they've not been having a great season, but they've picked up a little bit of form of late. Obviously won at Villa in the previous round. So that was a game I wanted to avoid. And we obviously got Brentford, and we got Macclesfield or Brentford. Brentford went on to win the game. I did watch the game. It was similar to our game against Burton in many ways. Brentford did make a lot of changes. They never really got full control of the game, but then Macclesfield didn't bother them too much. It was a shame about the goal that obviously knocked Macclesfield out. It was an own goal. Just a bit of one of the defenders just fell asleep. Winger went past him, or fullback went past him, and put a cross into the box. And the cross itself wasn't amazing. I think it was Hickey, wasn't it? And an own goal. I feel like he could have done a lot better, but it's one of those things. He's trying to clear the ball, and it ends up in the back of the net. But shame that Brentford went through. It would have been nice to get Macclesfield at home. Obviously, I think we beat them 8-0, didn't we, in the League Cup a good few years ago. So you'd have fancied our chances, even if Macclesfield would have knocked 2 Premier League teams out at that point. You'd have thought you'd fancy your chances to make the quarterfinals. But I actually don't think Brentford's too bad. Look, Brentford are a really good side, and I'm not underplaying that because they've had a really good season. Keith Andrews has done what a lot of people didn't expect him to do. He's gone in and actually probably improved him in some areas. Thiago's been scoring a lot of goals. They look like just a proper Premier League outfit, very physical, can press well, but also can counter really well as well. I was really impressed with them against Arsenal the other night in the Premier League. Thought they were unlucky to only get a point from that game. So they're going to be a tough nut to crack, do not get me wrong. I do think they're better at home than they are away. And I also think they're the sort of team, everything they do seems to be based on data, Brentford. And they're the sort of team, for that reason, they might be using the squad a bit more than other teams in their position would. I feel like if you were playing another team sort of mid-table in the Premier League, like a Palace, for example, last season, they are going full out for that FA Cup. They're long wait for a trophy. They're going full out for an FA Cup. They're going to play their best team. Brentford might do that. I'm not saying they definitely won't, but they're more of a team that they might actually think, let's play some reserve players again. They made a lot of changes last night. Granted, that's away at Macclesfield, not away at a Premier League team. But I just think they could rotate a little bit, and if we actually really go for it, I think it could be a good tie for us, and we could definitely make the quarterfinals. And if you'd have said at the start of the season you'll get to the 5th round of the FA Cup, which we haven't always done, we know we've had some really difficult draws over the past few years, and if you said in that 5th round tie you'll play Brentford at home for a chance to play in the quarterfinals, and I think you'd take that, definitely. And again, I'm not underplaying Brentford. They're a really good side, and it will be a difficult game. And they'd probably go into it, if the game was played tomorrow, Brentford would probably be favourites for that match. But I actually think that in a few weeks when it gets played, we could get through that, and then you're in the quarterfinals, and who knows from there. I didn't really do a match review for the game against Burton Albion. A lot of people giving their thoughts. It's a real it's a sort of divisive result, really, and the way the game panned out. A lot of people have mixed reactions to it, but I think a lot of people fall into the group of, it wasn't great, the game wasn't great, it wasn't great quality, we lacked a lot of quality, we wasn't able to impose ourselves on the game, get hold of the game. it was, it wasn't the best, but we got through. And that's pretty much where I sit in terms of my thoughts on it. He obviously made a lot of changes. I don't think the back three was necessary. I would have stuck with the 4-4-2. I know we haven't got a lot of striking options given the Pablo injury, but I just would have tried to play a similar way that we did against Burnley, and obviously against weaker opposition, but we're playing a weaker side. So I would have gone 4-4-2, maybe Wilson and Tati up front, maybe to start with. Then you could still rest Somerville and Bowen. You could have gone Diouf on left wing, for example, and Adama Traore on the right. I still think that would have given us enough and given us pace on the counter-attack. And then in that first half, just sort of see how the game went. Because we've seen a lot of these games, and Macclesfield versus Brentford was a good example as well. It's very difficult to fully control the game in those away games against teams, particularly in League One and League Two, or even non-league. The pitch is never going to be great. The ground is tight. The fans are on top of you. It's never going to be a comfortable afternoon. The change rooms are different. And again, I'm not making excuses because I was really unimpressed with what I saw on Saturday morning. But I do think that you could go through all those similar fixtures throughout the years, and you'll see a lot of similar results, like 1-0 to the better team, or 2-1, or after extra time, or when they had replays, it goes back to a replay. It's quite rarely the case where teams just absolutely blow the other team apart. Where you see that more often is like what we saw from Hull and Chelsea on Friday night, where that would have felt like a Premier League fixture in many ways for Chelsea. The KC, I think that's what it's called. I don't know if it's got a new sponsor name, but is almost you'd say it's a modern stadium. It's a Premier League stadium. I'd imagine the change room, not that I've seen them, but the changing rooms are probably similar to what you'd expect at a Premier League ground. So there's not too much difference, is my point. And Chelsea could turn up. The pitch is going to be good, and play their football, and it's not going to be a too hostile environment. All those kind of things that I think makes it an easier game. Whereas when you play in these lower league ties, it always is very difficult. So I think that needs to be taken into context. Having said that, it still wasn't very good, and I feel like I say, the back five, I didn't think we needed to do that. I think we should have gone 4-4-2. Try and get one or two goals up, and then we could have maybe brought Tati off to rest him and brought a midfielder on just to control the game, very much like we did against Burnley. Now, it might not have panned out like that. It's very easy to say that, but a lot harder to do. But I just feel like the system we played, it just basically meant that we didn't have a lot of passing options on. Every time one of the centre-backs got it, their only pass was the other centre-back. It wasn't really a ball into midfield. I don't think Magassa and Kante really got hold of that football match. Magassa more so, but he's obviously a more experienced player, first-team player. I was a little bit disappointed with Kante. I just thought that we might see a little bit more, but again, it was difficult for him to really stamp his authority on the match. And yeah, it just didn't really happen for us. But Somerville comes on, he shows that little bit of quality, and we get the win, which was important, and we sort of get through the red card as well. I have to say as well, I was really disappointed with that red card. I've seen it a few times now, and I don't know if it's my West Ham bias or what it is, but I don't see that being a red card at any level. I just do not see that being a red card. And I don't think the referee did. He got his yellow card out, and I think he's just been influenced by the players, who just went well over the top. It wasn't a nasty game to begin with, and the Potts tackle probably did stand out because of that. But I still don't think it was particularly nasty. It was rash, is how I would describe it. And I just think the referee just got swayed far too easily. No wonder he doesn't really ref in the Premier League, because I've not seen him in the Premier League. Maybe he does, having said that. But he just got swayed well too easily, and this is why we need VAR, isn't it? I'm completely against VAR, but when you've got referees that just make decisions like that, I do think VAR would have probably got involved there and said, this isn't a red card. Or he probably wouldn't have given a red card in the first instance, because he'd have thought, well, I'll give a yellow. I thought it was a yellow. The players have got around me. If I'm that wrong, obviously wrong, then VAR will intervene and it will be overturned to a red card. I think that's what would have happened, but without VAR. And again, it was refreshing not to watch a game of football without VAR, don't get me wrong. But I think some of the big decisions, and that could have cost us. If one of those sort of late opportunities would have gone to Burton, They could have scored that. It goes to penalties. Anything can happen. Before you know it, you're out of the cup, and it all would have swung on that decision. But yeah, not going to go into too much more detail on the Burton game. I thought it was just a case of getting the job done. And then in terms of the other ties in the fifth round, I think you've seen a few of the big boys get, I would say, favourable draws. You'd expect Arsenal to beat Mansfield. I'll put the fixtures on the screen now, but you'd expect Arsenal to beat Mansfield. You'd expect Liverpool to beat Wolves, although that's a little bit more difficult. And then you'd expect Chelsea to beat Wrexham, although that would be a big occasion at Wrexham's ground, obviously with the sort of glamour around Wrexham at the moment. But you'd expect those teams to get through. Man City have obviously got a very difficult tie away at Newcastle, which I do think Newcastle could knock them out there. So I think that would be a really interesting game. I know City went to St James's Park in the Carabao Cup and won, but I think that might be excuse me. I think that might be a different scenario, that game. But other than that, what I do think is if we can get through Brentford, which will be easier said than done, you've got 3 fixtures that I wouldn't mind the winner of in a quarter final. If you said that we could, before the start of the season, excuse me, we'll be playing an FA Cup quarter final against one of either Fulham or Southampton, Port Vale, Bristol City or Sunderland, or Leeds or Norwich. And again, they're all decent teams in their own right. Norwich playing really well in the Championship at the moment. I've got a few Norwich fans message me after putting that tweet out that I would quite fancy Norwich in the 5th round draw. And again, my point is that if you offered that as a chance to get into a quarter final, then you would very much take it. And if we could have a 6th round tie, a quarter final tie with, like I say, a Fulham, a Southampton, a Sunderland, a Norwich, a Leeds, I would massively take that. And it's a chance to get to Wembley in a semi-final, which we've not seen with West Ham in a long, long time. So, yeah, I actually think that the draw was fairly kind to us. Could have been better, but could have been a lot worse. And it has been a lot worse over recent years. And it's typical, isn't it? We've had a lot better teams than we are in our current form. And we've just got bloody awful draws. Away at Old Trafford, away at Anfield, particularly in the League Cup, I think that was more the case. But we've had Premier League opposition so many times. Last season, away at Villa Park in the 3rd round. I mean, it's just such a difficult draw, and you're already out, and then that's done for another year. And the year that we get some favourable draws, we're actually not a great team, and we're struggling with relegation. But hopefully, the recent upturn in form, and that's why I said at the beginning of this video, I think it could be our year. Strangely, it could be, and it could just be the catalyst to also stay up. And this has been a real turgid time for West Ham fans last season and this season included. But if Nuno could get this team just to stay up in any shape or form, even if it means on the last day, and also have a day out at Wembley, whether that's just a semi or whether that's even all the way to the final, and then bloody lift a trophy, that could turn out to be an amazing season for West Ham from bloody nowhere. So yeah, I've got a little feeling, I've got to be honest, I've got a little feeling that this could finally be our year. I think, 1980, the last time we lifted the FA Cup. Obviously, we had that final in 2006 against Liverpool, which is known as the Gerrard final, which broke my heart as a kid watching. But maybe this year could be finally our year in the FA Cup. Let's bloody hope so. Come on, you Irons.